In the small, tree-lined town of Maple Harbor, most things moved at a gentle, predictable pace. The seasons came like clockwork, and so did the rhythms of the people's lives. But in one cozy white house with blue shutters, there was a clock that didn't follow the rules. It hung in the living room above the fireplace, a tall oak grandfather clock, its polished wood still glowing from decades of care. The Pendleton family had owned it for 3 generations, ever since Grandpa Walter bought it from an estate sale in the late 1950s. Everyone who visited admired it, but if you stayed long enough, you'd notice something strange. Every 12th tick, the clock skipped. It wasn't loud or jarring, it was subtle, a tiny pause in the otherwise steady tick-tock, tick-tock. Most people never noticed. But Emma Pendleton did. Emma was 14, a curious, bright-eyed girl who saw patterns in everything. She noticed it the first week her family moved back into the old Pendleton home after inheriting it from Grandma Ruth. "Mom," Emma had said one evening, pointing to the clock, "did you hear that? It skipped." Her mother, juggling dinner in the kitchen, barely looked up. "Sweetheart, it's just an old clock. Probably needs fixing." But Emma didn't think so. She'd read about clocks, how each part worked in harmony, each gear moving the next. A clock wasn't supposed to skip. And yet here was one doing exactly that. And still keeping almost perfect time. Over the next few weeks, Emma began listening to the clock each night before bed. She counted 11 perfect ticks, then the faintest pause before the next. It was so precise in its imperfection that she began to wonder if it was intentional. When she asked her dad about it, he chuckled. "Your grandfather noticed it too. He always said the clock had a mind of its own, but it's been like that for as long as I can remember. Still works fine, so we just left it alone." Most people would have shrugged and moved on. Emma didn't. She wanted to know why. One rainy Saturday, she climbed up on a chair and carefully opened the glass door covering the clock's face. The brass pendulum swung steadily, its golden surface reflecting the light from the fireplace. She peered inside, tracing each gear with her eyes. She couldn't see anything wrong. No loose teeth, no broken springs. It was almost like it meant to skip. That thought stayed with her for months. She started writing in her journal about it. What if the clock skips for a reason? What if timing doesn't have to be perfect to matter? Life in Maple Harbor rolled on. Emma went to school, hung out with her friends, and came home each night to the gentle sound of the clock marking time. It became comforting, like the heartbeat of the house. She'd sit on the couch doing homework, listening for that 12th beat to vanish, and every time it did, she'd smile. Then came the night everything changed. It was late January, one of those cold, windy nights when the streets were empty and the snow piled high against the windows. Emma was in bed, reading under her covers, when she heard a strange creak downstairs. Her first thought was that the old house was settling. But then she smelled it, faint at first, then stronger. Smoke. Heart pounding, she ran into the hallway and saw a flicker of light coming from the living room. The fireplace was roaring, far too much. Sparks were flying onto the rug. She grabbed the fire extinguisher from the kitchen, shouting for her parents. Her dad rushed in, coughing, while her mom ushered Emma's little brother toward the door. They managed to put out most of the flames, but the smoke was thick. They all stumbled outside into the freezing air, shivering in their pajamas. Later, as the fire chief inspected the damage, he shook his head. "You're lucky. Another 30 seconds and that rug would have gone up completely." Emma frowned. "But how did we even know in time? I thought the fire started while we were upstairs." Her dad looked puzzled too. "I was in the kitchen making tea when I heard the clock chime. I went to check it, and that's when I saw the smoke." Emma's eyes widened. "Wait, the clock doesn't chime at night." They all turned to look at the grandfather clock, which stood there, as if nothing had happened. But Emma noticed something. The hands were slightly off. It had struck midnight, 30 seconds early. 30 seconds early. The exact amount of time the fire chief said had made the difference. That night, lying awake, Emma thought about the clock's skip. All those months she'd wondered why it was there, why it was different. And now she had her answer. Sometimes being a little off can be the very thing that saves you. In the days that followed, her family got the fireplace repaired and cleaned up the smoke damage. Neighbors brought over food and blankets, but Emma kept coming back to the clock. She began seeing it not as broken, but as special. A reminder that life isn't about flawless timing. It's about the moments when you re-out of step, when you miss a beat, and how those moments can change everything. Years later, when Emma went off to college, she took the clock's chime with her in memory. She studied engineering, inspired by the gears and mechanics she'd once tried to understand. And in her dorm room, she kept a small recording of the clock, ticking, skip and all. Whenever she doubted herself, she'd play it and remember, sometimes your greatest strength is the thing you once thought was a flaw. Moral: perfection isn't what makes something valuable. Sometimes the moments we skip, the steps we miss, or the flaws we carry are exactly what make us capable of doing something extraordinary.